You are 22 years old when you discover the true meaning of the word obedience. Berlin, 1936. Less than a decade after the Great War that tore Europe apart. Less than what your father survived in the trenches of Verdun before returning home as an empty shell of a man. This is the time when they offer you an impeccable Wehrmacht uniform, a position of prestige, and the promise that Germany will finally be great again. You don't kill, you don't torture, you don't even question orders. Your only job is to train recruits, organize supplies, and ensure that every soldier under your command is ready to serve the Führer. 6 months after enlisting, you discover that 3 Jewish families disappeared from your neighborhood because you signed the relocation papers without asking questions. No one gives you explanations. No one argues with you. They simply promote you, give you a shiny medal that weighs on your chest like molten lead. Welcome to the system. This is what it feels like to serve at every rung of the Nazi military hierarchy. From the young recruit who still believes in honor and fatherland, to the generals who can no longer sleep at night. And I warn you of one thing. The final level of this story is not what you're imagining. Level 1, the recruit. Gefreiter, private. On the first rung, you are just another face in a sea of grey uniforms. Life expectancy on the front line is 6 months. You are completely invisible until the day a Soviet bullet finds your chest. Your job is extremely simple. Obey orders, march when told, shoot when told, die when necessary. You are just a disposable piece, almost as if war were an industrial machine of human flesh. The problem is that the enemy sees no difference between you and the SS fanatics. On your first day at the training camp, they hand you a Carabiner 98K, boots that hurt your feet, and a helmet that seems to weigh tons. If you survive the Russian winter, you get promoted. If you show fear, you are executed for cowardice. In your first week, you earn 25 Reichsmarks. It's more than you could earn working in the destroyed factory where your father used to work before the Depression. Your mother asks, "Are you safe where you are?" You lie and say yes, that you're just doing training exercises away from the front. Technically, you're still lying. But do you know why they recruit 18-year-olds for this function? It's not just because they're physically stronger. It's because they still don't question orders, still believe in glory and honor, haven't seen enough yet to understand they're just numbers in a war statistics book. The real danger of your profession isn't death in combat. It's realizing too late what you're really defending. You receive an order to clean a village in Poland. You think it means checking for hidden partisans. When you get there, you discover what clean really means. You don't pull the trigger personally, but you stand guard while others do. Someone just lost their entire family because of your presence. They don't dismiss you. You simply learn to feel nothing. If you're very lucky and show potential, they promote you to the next level. If you were 18 years old, with a nation humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles, massive unemployment, and a charismatic leader promising to restore German greatness, would you have the courage to refuse? This is why there are millions of German soldiers scattered throughout occupied Europe. Level 2, the non-commissioned officer, Unteroffizier. The second level is the non-commissioned officer, the backbone of the army. The average age now rises to 25 to 35 years, and the probability of you surviving the entire war drops to 30%. You think it's a position of responsibility and respect? Your first command mission is to lead a platoon of 40 men through the frozen Russian steppe towards Stalingrad. 3 months marching in the most brutal winter of the century, 1,000 kilometers from your home. You earn 80 Reichsmarks per month plus extra rations. You do the math and realize you can now support your family better than your father ever could. What nobody warns you is that you're marching toward the largest cemetery in modern military history. If you're surrounded by the Red Army, it's years in a Siberian prisoner camp where half the men die of hunger and cold. And if along the way you lose men to desertion or freezing, the High Command holds you responsible. In your first Russian winter, you lose 15 of your 40 men, not to Soviet bullets, but to hypothermia and starvation. Your superiors look at you with contempt. Weakness, they say. Lack of leadership. You have two options: accept the blame and be demoted, or execute the next soldier who shows signs of breaking to maintain discipline. You choose the second option, because refusing is admitting you're also broken inside. The next day, you're called to a meeting with your commander. He explains with mechanized coldness that desertion cannot be tolerated, that each man lost weakens the Reich. He gives you a choice. You become more brutal, more efficient, more inhuman, or you're replaced by someone who will be. You accept to harden. You've just signed a pact where your humanity is the price of survival. And just when you think it can't get worse, they offer you the promotion every non-commissioned officer covets. Because refusing means you don't have what it takes to serve the Führer. They offer you the next level, commissioned officer, much more power, and the responsibility of sending hundreds to their death. Level 3, the junior officer, Leutnant. The third level is the junior officer, the lieutenant who commands entire companies. Your salary can now reach 150 Reichsmarks per month, with bonuses for strategic victories. But the mortality rate for field officers is 60% by 1945. Your first day as an officer happens on a cold winter morning near Kursk. You receive an order to order a frontal attack against fortified Soviet positions. You know it's suicide. You know you'll lose half your men in the first 2 hours. But the order is clear and non-negotiable. You raise your arm, blow the whistle for attack. 200 men run across an open field under machine gun fire. You also didn't know that ordering men to their death would be so mechanically simple. This is the part that destroys your mind. It's not the act itself, but the coldness of how it all happens. You shout, "Advance!" They run. Soviet machine guns open fire, men fall like wheat being harvested. You don't feel your hands tremble when you mark the casualties on the map. 87 dead, 43 wounded, objective not achieved. You send the report and wait for the next order. 6 hours later, you eat hot soup in the command tent while the wounded moan in the improvised medical post. You've just crossed the line of no return. In the first week, you can't sleep. Every time you close your eyes, you see the faces of the men you send to die. You hear the dry sound of machine guns. You smell gunpowder mixed with frozen blood. In the second week, you sleep with the help of schnapps and pervitine pills, methamphetamine distributed to the army. On the fourth mission, you don't even remember the soldiers' names anymore. They're no longer human beings. They're just numbers in a report, pieces on a chessboard that need to be sacrificed to achieve strategic objectives. Your commander talks about 3 operations a week as if discussing factory logistics. Little by little, you realize that human life has a fixed and disposable value, and the real hell begins to form inside you. The problem isn't the orders getting harder. It's them becoming routine. You start taking pervitine to stay awake and schnapps to be able to sleep. One day, you receive an order to execute Soviet prisoners of war because there are no resources to keep them. You know refusing is treason. So you carry out the order. After that, you're never the same again. Your humanity has been switched off. And when you become perfectly efficient and cold, they promote you to the next command. Level 4, the senior officer, Hauptmann, Major. The fourth level is battalion command, captain or major. Your income now includes special privileges, better food, heated quarters, access to vehicles. Your life expectancy increases because you're further from the front line. But the accumulated guilt becomes a weight that never diminishes. Now you have hundreds of men under your command. Privates, non-commissioned officers, junior officers, an entire battalion. You control military operations in an entire region of the front, but the High Command makes the rules very clear to you. The first rule is that you must achieve the established military objectives no matter the cost in lives. The second rule is to maintain absolute order and eliminate any sign of insubordination or desertion with extreme prejudice. The third rule is that if you fail in either of the first two, you'll be replaced or sent to a punishment camp on the Eastern Front Line. In your first month in command, you meet all targets and are praised. In the third month, a group of local partisans ambushes one of your supply convoys. 10 German soldiers killed. You receive a direct order. For each German soldier killed, execute 10 civilians from the nearest village. You have 24 hours to carry out the retaliation order, or you'll be accused of sympathizing with the enemy. In your military world, hesitating is the same as treason. You carry out the order. 100 civilians are gathered in the village square and executed. Men, women, elderly. You watch from afar, supervise, sign the report. After that day, you stop writing letters home. You avoid mirrors. You drink more and more. But you also discover that carrying out orders without question makes you valuable to the Reich. A month later, you discover that one of your junior officers is secretly helping prisoners, giving extra food, allowing some to escape. You know what you have to do. This officer was your friend at the military academy, but if you forgive him, everyone else will think they can question orders too. You order his execution for treason. After that, you realize you've crossed a threshold from which there's no return. You're no longer a soldier. You're a tool of the regime. Level 5, the High Command, Oberst, General. And then you reach what you thought was the top, Colonel or General of the High Command. You no longer deal with hundreds of men. You move entire divisions, tens of thousands of soldiers like pieces on a strategic board. You're no longer on the battlefield. You're in planning rooms, moving flags on maps, deciding the fate of nations. Your daily life consists of meetings with other senior officers, strategic discussions with the Führer, coordination of military campaigns on multiple fronts. Your family lives in a mansion confiscated from a deported Jewish family. Your children have no idea of the amount of blood that paid for your lifestyle. Your power is so great that privates tremble when they hear your name. But the price of this power is constant paranoia and the crushing weight of decisions. You know the war has been lost since 1943, but you can't say that out loud. You know the orders you're receiving and passing on are crimes against humanity, but obeying is safer than questioning. Your colleague officer was executed last week for defeatism. Another is being investigated by the Gestapo for alleged lack of loyalty. You trust no one. Your food could be poisoned. Your driver could be reporting every word you say. Your phone is certainly wiretapped. And when the war finally ends in May 1945, you don't die on a glorious battlefield. You're captured by the Allies on a grey morning, hiding in a basement, trembling with fear. You're tried at Nuremberg or by military tribunals. The evidence is presented. Documents with your signature ordering atrocities, testimonies from survivors, photos of massacres you authorized. You try to argue you are just following orders. The tribunal responds that this is not a defense for crimes against humanity. You're convicted. Life, imprisonment, or execution. Your name becomes synonymous with evil. Your family changes their name to escape the shame. Your children grow up asking how their father could do such things. And you, in the long nights in your cell, finally confront the truth you avoided for years. You always had choices. Small choices at first, gigantic choices at the end. And in each one, you chose to obey instead of resist, chose your career instead of your conscience, chose fear instead of courage. The brutal truth. The vast majority of German officers weren't psychopathic monsters from birth. They were ordinary men who made small moral concessions, one after another, until they no longer recognized who they were. They started as young patriots wanting to serve their nation. They ended as war criminals with the blood of millions on their hands. From the naive 18-year-old recruit who believed he was defending his homeland, to the paranoid general who knew he was serving evil but was too cowardly to resist, each level of this hierarchy offered a choice. Obey or question, follow or resist, preserve humanity or sell it in exchange for medals and promotions. You started thinking you were just serving your country. You ended up discovering that the real price wasn't measured in Reichsmarks, but in innocent lives destroyed, in burned villages, in trains loaded with people going to extermination camps, while you signed the logistics papers without asking questions. And when you think the top was military glory, history shows you something different. The top was a war crimes tribunal where you finally had to answer for every order you gave, for every atrocity you authorized, for every moment you chose to obey instead of being human. Was it worth it?